very few game reserves have full-time active security personnel, anti-poaching unit personnel employed. There's a plethora of reasons for that. Initially is the cost. I mean, having active anti-poaching units patrolling your game reserve, looking after your wildlife is expensive. They require, good training, good equipment, good vehicles, accommodation, and it's an expensive undertaking to have that running continuously on a game reserve. So it's I think an important point in Ongava's history was the establishment of that anti-poaching unit in the very beginning, because it set the tone for what we were trying to do here. That program and that unit has had to develop over the last 25 years as Ongava and as conservation and as poaching has developed, and the threats have changed. So initially it was quite a focused unit on one particular avenue. It was boots on the ground and rhino monitoring. That program has now developed into a multifaceted program and unit which employs aircraft technology, boots on the ground, night vision equipment. So it really has had to develop over the last 25 years, and that's been in response to how Ongava has developed as a game reserve, but also the threats that we have faced and how they have grown. The last sort of 15 years have seen a massive increase in trade in illegal wildlife products, and we talk about rhino a lot, but I mean it's not just rhino, it's elephant, lions. I mean the illegal wildlife trade in lion bones is significant. Lion populations are crashing all around Africa. We improve, develop, continually change what we're doing, and make the teams more active, more progressive in how they deal with this threat. When we talk about anti-poaching, it sounds like quite an exciting job, and there are significant parts of it that are exciting, but it is and does require a great deal of commitment and hard work and passion, because it's a job that is not in the limelight. It's not out there for everybody to see. It's normally a group of people who are behind the scenes and who are working incredibly hard Monday to Sunday, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So the qualities that are required to become an APU member: you have to be committed, you have to have a passion and love for wildlife, but there's a lot of mundane hard work that goes into making sure that these animals are protected. So you have to be committed to this sort of program and this sort of lifestyle. There are also a bunch of different training areas that you have to be able to complete successfully. So for starters, you need to understand technology and a monitoring program. So that requires operation of cameras, night vision equipment, technology in terms of tablets and cell phones, recording of information correctly. That I think people take that for granted, but actually writing stuff down and entering stuff or information into digital format, you have to concentrate and do it properly. Otherwise, the data that you're collecting is it's of no use and no consequence. So there's a lot of sort of monitoring training that has to take place before you can become a successful anti-poaching unit member. You also obviously have to understand and become proficient with the use of firearms. So all of our anti-poaching unit members are armed. They are put through significant amounts of training for that, and regular training on weekly and monthly basis to make sure that they are proficient and that they can use these weapons to protect the wildlife that we have. So there's a great deal of emphasis placed on security and training for security. Another area that you need to successfully complete is first aid training. So I think it's important to understand that conservation has developed from being monitoring and conservationists to a much more armed conservationist role than previously. So what we are is a deterrent, and a significant deterrent, to poachers who would come into Ongava and try and poach our wildlife. And part of that training is obviously first aid training, advanced first aid training, trauma training. So in a tactical environment, so that you are prepared to deal with things like gunshot wounds and traumatic experiences. So it takes a lot to become an APU. The development of people in our APU team is incredibly important to us. I think it's unique, or at least to Ongava, is the drive to make a career out of being an APU member. So, historically, if you were a tracker and you were good at it, you would do it for years and years and years, and there would be sort of no career progression. So we've changed that as they move through different roles and different functions within our teams, so they develop. And there are a number of different career paths they can choose. I mean, it could end up in management, special operators with specific skills, such as the APUs who fly or fly with me, or if they've got administrative skills and management skills, then they could potentially develop into future team leaders and APU managers. So there's a drive to make sure that people are committed and feel that they have a career in Ongava as an APU. I'd just like to reiterate the importance of the anti-poaching unit on Ongava for the security of the wildlife here, and just to expand a little bit as to what it is to be an anti-poaching unit member, on what their functions are and how important that is for Ongava in the short-term future and the long-term future. I think it's become pretty clear in the last 2 months with the corona pandemic that is affecting the globe. In just about every country in the world is affected negatively in many different ways. And what's come about is that the anti-poaching unit has had to remain on Ongava, where all of our other hospitality departments have been forced to shut down. Now the APU have stayed to look after and protect the wildlife that is still here. So without these guys who are standing next to me and others in our team protecting the wildlife, securing the environment in which this wildlife roams free, none of this would be available for us to come and view again or see in a couple of months from now. It would deteriorate quite rapidly. And I think that's another important point, is that if we were to take anti-poaching out of conservation in Namibia, in the present climate of rhino poaching and illegal wildlife trade, wildlife areas in Namibia would be decimated. We only have to look around us at other game reserves who do not have active anti-poaching units or haven't had active anti-poaching units in the past, and have really had to ramp things up in the last sort of couple of years because they've faced incredible levels of poaching of animals like rhino, to really understand the importance of this team and the impact they've had in protecting this environment that is Ongava. So the guys do a fundamental job, and it's really important that they stay and continue their jobs even through this pandemic, to make sure that all the wildlife on Ongava in this part of Namibia is still here when the pandemic passes and people can once again travel and come back and view our wonderful environment.